there's been chaos erupting in the United Kingdom with riots over immigration, far-right and immigrant protesters.
Watch this.
The streets, quite literally. Let's go ahead and put some of the video our team assembled here. This is just some examples of what's been happening.
It's hard not to think the UK is on fire. There's anger everywhere. Is it?
People are extremely angry.
A dangerous level of anger, in your view?
Yeah, seething with anger.
None of the conditions of what happened last summer have gone away. Violence might not happen, but the absence of riots shouldn't be anybody's test.
Breaking. London burned for 16 hours and the government went silent. It started with one shooting. Thursday afternoon, Tottenham. Police killed a man they said was tied to gang activity. His name was Mark Duggan. His family stood outside the police station holding signs. Their grief was quiet. Their protest was peaceful. For a moment, it looked like the kind of demonstration any city could handle. But London had been waiting for a spark, and that spark was about to become an inferno. To see how fast a society can break, hit subscribe, because what happened next shocked the entire world. Within 2 hours, everything changed. The peaceful vigil turned tense. Someone threw a bottle, then another. Police formed a line, shields up, but the crowd pushed forward. Voices got louder. Anger replaced grief. And then someone set a police car on fire. The flames shot up fast, engulfing the vehicle while its blue lights kept flashing through the smoke. Officers backed away, their shields shaking under the pressure of bodies surging forward. Someone screamed, "Protect our kids!" And the crowd roared back like they'd been holding that rage for years. By 6:42 p.m, it wasn't a protest anymore. It was a riot. And it spread like a disease. By 7 p.m, the violence jumped across East London. Hackney erupted first, then Shoreditch, then Camden. Each neighbourhood lit up one after another like dominoes falling. Cars were flipped. Fire consumed everything as it touched. Social media exploded. The hashtag Britain Burns hit 2 million tweets in less than an hour. Live streams flooded TikTok, YouTube and Telegram. Everyone had a camera. Everyone was filming. And every angle showed the same thing, a city tearing itself apart in real time. Near King's Cross, flames ate through storefronts. Smoke rose in thick black towers over the Thames. From Parliament, you could see the orange glow lighting up the skyline. From Canary Wharf, you could hear the sirens wailing like wounded animals that wouldn't stop screaming. The breaking news alerts were relentless. London under siege. Riots spread across capital. City in chaos. And the footage backed it up. This wasn't exaggeration. This was reality. At 8:47 p.m, the government finally released a statement. The situation is under control, but the city wasn't calm. It was on fire, and people watching knew it. The gap between what the government was saying and what everyone could see was so wide it felt like an insult. Leaked messages from police command started hitting social media minutes later. Screenshots, voice notes, internal memos. One line stood out. Morale collapsing, units retreating. South Bank lost. Then a video surfaced. A police officer, helmet cracked, visor smeared with soot, staring directly into someone's phone camera. His voice was shaking. "We're not controlling it anymore." The video was deleted within minutes. But by then, millions had already seen it. And once something's out there, it's out there forever. By 9 p.m, London looked like a war zone. Buses were abandoned sideways across major roads. Shops had their shutters slammed down, some already smashed open. People were running, some carrying others just trying to get away from the chaos journalists struggled to film, without getting shoved or screamed at. The anger wasn't just aimed at police anymore. It was aimed at anyone holding a microphone or a camera. A drone captured an image that went viral instantly. The Thames, black and still, cutting through a city glowing orange. Fires reflected off the water like a mirror. Parliament sat in shadow except for the flames dancing across its stone walls. It didn't look like London. It looked like the end of something inside Downing Street. Panic was setting in. Ministers were shouting at each other. Advisors were pacing back and forth, phones glued to their ears. Updates kept coming in, and none of them were good. The Prime Minister sat in silence, staring at a wall of screens showing live footage from across the city. Then an aide rushed in, face pale, hands shaking. "They've breached Trafalgar Square." Quiet. The Prime Minister didn't move at first. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, "God help us." It wasn't a command. It wasn't leadership. It was surrender. By 10 p.m, the riots had spread far beyond London. Manchester erupted, then Birmingham, then Bristol, Nottingham and Leeds. Migrant hotels were surrounded by angry mobs. Police stations went into lockdown, officers barricading themselves inside helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights cutting through smoke and darkness. The unrest moved like wildfire across Britain. And the government had no answer. In South London, near Peckham, a line of military veterans stepped between the protesters and the police. They weren't in uniform, they weren't armed, but they stood shoulder to shoulder, a silent wall of men and women who had once fought for Britain overseas and were now standing guard at home. One veteran, a man in his 50s with a weathered face, looked directly into a camera. His voice was calm but firm. "We fought for this country once, we'll fight for it again." That clip hit 10 million views before midnight across every platform. People called them heroes, others called them vigilantes. But everyone agreed on one thing. They had more courage than the politicians hiding in Westminster. Inside the BBC headquarters, chaos reigned. Producers were getting calls from Downing Street. The message was clear. Tone it down. Stop using the word riot. Avoid inflammatory language, but the footage was everywhere. Cars flipped and burning in Croydon. Shops looted in Hackney. Fires swallowing entire blocks in Shoreditch mothers screaming from balconies. Where are the leaders now? The BBC tried to comply, but the truth was already out, and it kept spreading. At 10:42 p.m, the blackout order came down. Major TV networks abruptly cut to technical difficulties. Social media platforms started throttling hashtags. Videos were taken down. The government was trying to control the narrative, but it was too late. People kept filming, they shared clips through private groups, mirror uploads, encrypted chats and file transfers. The truth kept slipping through every crack they tried to seal. By 11 p.m, the streets were still burning. But something else was happening too. Ordinary people, neighbours, shopkeepers, community leaders, started organising clean-up efforts. They swept glass off sidewalks. They boarded up broken windows. They stood guard outside local businesses to protect them from further damage. It was chaos and community existing side by side. When the sun finally rose over London on Friday morning, the city was bruised but breathing. Smoke still hung low over the Thames. Broken glass covered the streets like fallen snow. Graffiti screamed messages of anger and defiance on every available wall. But beneath it all, something had shifted. Britain had seen itself, raw, angry and unfiltered. The veneer of order had been ripped away, messy and complicated and real. And the people realised something. The government didn't want them to know. They had the power, not Westminster, not the police, not the media, them. A BBC journalist, standing in front of a burned-out building in Tottenham, closed her broadcast with a line that echoed across the entire country. The system didn't fall last night. The people stood up, and when they did, the government blinked. Somewhere in the fading smoke, as the city slowly woke up to assess the damage, a voice called out through a megaphone, "Stay awake, Britain. This isn't the end, it's just the beginning." And in living rooms across the country, people watching knew that voice was right. Because what happened in London wasn't just a riot. It was a warning, a crack in the foundation, a moment when the unspoken tension that had been building for years finally exploded into the open. The question now wasn't whether the question was whether normal even existed anymore. When a government loses control and the public's trust in the official narrative shatters, a fundamental shift occurs. The social contract, the invisible glue holding society together, begins to fracture. This vacuum of authority isn't immediately filled by order, but often by uncertainty. People turn to alternative sources of information, grassroots movements, or local communities for guidance and truth. This can be a catalyst for profound change, ranging from widespread civil disobedience and protests to a complete reimagining of the political landscape. It's a moment of both great peril and potential, where the old structures crumble and the fight to define what comes next begins. The stability everyone took for granted evaporates, revealing the fragile balance upon which modern civilization is built. The stories that shape our world are often buried or spun. To see the full picture and stay ahead, to be vigilant. Subscribe now and turn on notifications to ensure you stay awake and informed as events continue to unfold. Confirmed that accepting such a donation without registering it publicly is not only unethical, it may be criminal. This is textbook fraud, the analyst declared. And if it's proven, dated nearly 9 months ago, warned, this donor is toxic. If this ever comes out, finished. Yet the deal went forward silently, without public disclosure, and in clear violation of party as the bombshells dropped. A legal analyst brought in mid-program confirmed that accepting such a donation without registering it publicly is not only unethical, it may be criminal.